transitioning to what I wanted to talk about earlier, guys, the SoCal Gaming, kind of like a recap. Tell me about being an owner and a vendor, guys. How was it?
Let's let Ricky start. So we just ran SoCal Gaming Expo. It's over. The dust has settled. We've picked ourselves up off the floor, quite literally, at certain points of the expo. Curtis, too.
Yeah. Curtis was literally on the ground.
Every night we were out.
Tell everyone your thoughts. Go ahead, Ricky. Break us into this. SoCal's over.
SoCal's... I miss it, truth be told. Now I miss it.
Same here, man.
I was terrified right before it. And then when it was finally, we were setting everything up, I was like, oh, dude, we got this. This is going to be so good. When it was all set up, I honestly, it was probably like one of the best feelings. I almost got emotional. I was like, oh, this is the best.
Tell the people your role in SoCal. What was your main role?
I'm in charge of the vendors and... What logistics guy?
Vendors and logistics. Ricky, you were the best logistics guy ever. I've never seen a truck packed so good.
He literally played Tetris.
Yeah, it was Tetris in a truck, and it was
So yeah, that was me, and just answering back to any vendors, anything they needed, stuff like that. I was just that Friday was like my Everest. It was everything had to be perfect. It was
you and your brother and Nelly, his wife. You guys did an awesome job in the back. Props to all three of you. You guys were back there.
I was like, oh my gosh, it was
every
awesome.
vendor making sure it was smooth. It was a nice to watch your role because everyone kind of has their role in this, right? Like we all. There's 4 owners, Lance as well, who was here on the last podcast. But it's like you kind of be like, okay, but what about when showtime hits? Like. Yeah. How is this all going to play out? But it was cool to see everyone.
And you did an awesome job with it, Rick, because, for you guys, it's your first time running an expo. So there was a lot of me sitting with you, showing you vendor stuff throughout the year.
Thanks, Chris. Chris was patient with me.
and it's a long, big task, keeping track of, we had, 230 plus booths.
Yeah. And emails were constant.
That's crazy.
Constant questions and emails and calls
and adjustments.
And adjustments at the end. And what I was saying to you from the beginning is make sure you are slow and diligent because all it takes is overselling one booth, dude. Right? And then somebody shows up and goes, "Where's my booth?" And we don't have a booth for them.
You're like, right this way. So you lead them to the exit. You lead them to the exit and lock the door. Through this door.
That was my biggest fear because I think we did get one vendor that out of nowhere, snuck in. I was like, where'd this vendor come from? And at the end, they never ended up coming. I was like, thank God.
We figured it out. There was an application that was approved that we didn't know they even paid. Yeah, is what happened. And then they were like, oh, hey, we're here. They didn't show up.
They were allowed to pay a week before the show. I was like,
right. So
why'd you guys screw up? Just kidding. Chris, why don't you tell the people maybe Lance's role, he's not here, and then your role, and I'll go through mine and all that, kind of how it went. And so we'll talk to Elliot too, by the way, as a vendor after as well too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your experience. So Lance and I are generally kind of operations guys, overseeing the contracts with Pasadena, electrical, all the internet requirements. A lot of the setup of the tournaments. I work with a lot of the tournament organizers. All the Smash stuff that was there, working with Vince and the Tetris.
That was a great setup, by the way.
Thank you.
That whole tournament section, great.
Floor plan is a big one. Lance learned CAD, so Lance and I spent a lot of time doing CAD stuff, and kind of just overseeing everything. A little bit of all of it,
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you do?
What do you do?
Sell tickets. Media, everything you see from every video to every pushing, people to remind them where to go, how to get tickets, voice actors, guests. My heart, this obviously isn't the only thing I did, but it was in the skateboarding thing. It's just something I was very adamant about and wanted to put together, which... Thank You was a huge success. I was showing Chris and the guys after in a private group. Just getting them screenshots and videos. It was really cool. The skateboarders themselves, the pros, all reached out to me individually and was like, dude, this was one of the most hype crowds we've had. Yeah. Because everyone was just so excited, and thank you to everyone who attended because you guys were excited. It's hard. We were talking at dinner before this, you want to create something. It's almost I think of it in YouTube, right? I take what I learn on there and strategize it into this. You want to create a video and a thumbnail to when someone's scrolling through YouTube, they're too interested not to look. So I said, I want to apply the same thing to the skateboarding. I want it, to be loud and people yelling and skaters to be going wild and microphones. And, you create an event that people have to look at. And I feel like it was such a fun... It was so cool to watch videos back and everyone's like, you've never seen this at a gaming expo? Yeah.
I referred to you as our hype man, and you are the best hype man ever. You helped sell the show, and it's not like hyping people into like, oh, you're not gonna have a good time. It's just showing like this is gonna be an amazing time. Make sure you come. Yeah, and I think that you did such a fantastic job of like highlighting all the different pieces of it, whether it was the guests or the skateboarding or whatever it was, with the show. So,
well, you as well, but I think we should ask an outsider perspective on honest opinions. You've been to a bunch of SoCals, you go to events all the time. How was your experience? You don't have to like give us a grade or anything, but how was your experience overall? You vended there, you got a big booth. We'll also talk about something interesting that happened at the end of the show. Too. Something that we will tease this. We will tease this. There was something that happened at the end of the show. It was pretty wild, but not as big of a deal as we thought it would be. But it was okay. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what was your experience overall? Kind of.
The vibe, the atmosphere, how packed it was, man. Like I had to bring an extra guy to my vendor booth because there's so many damn people. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. I was definitely say the skateboard ramp brought a lot of attention, and you can hear everyone cheering, just like we said earlier. That's something unique, something I would say never been done before. The voice actors, all the other guests, the YouTubers too, because everyone that we watch on YouTube was there, and I was just like, oh, this is crazy, John Riggs, and of course, my twin brother, right?
Retro Rick. Retro Rick. The 4'2" version of you. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to unsee that
now. when I saw him at the expo, he's like, thanks a lot, man. Now I look chunky now.
Yeah, because he admits it. He put on a little weight, and you lost a bunch of weight. So.
Yeah. But I love Rick, man. He's a funny dude. And then I was actually excited to meet Chase.
Chase, okay, yeah.
I never met Chase either.
Good guy.
A good guy.
Good group of guys. They're good.
Yeah.
They were great.
The whole
They're
crew
awesome.
there, that was dope, man. So
we interesting what we noticed too, and it was a big thing that a lot of YouTubers talked about in their videos. Watching back, of course, I'm searching SoCal, seeing what everybody's saying. Something we're really proud of is that almost every YouTuber that was filming on Sunday was like, "This is not what Sundays look like."
Yeah,
like this is a very busy Sunday.
Yeah, I think what happened was Saturday night, because I'm always looking at the ticket sales and stuff. And Saturday night, like late after the show ended at 8, there was a huge purchase of tickets for Sunday. I think the word got out from everybody having such a good time on Saturday during the day.
Like, this is a good show.
And like everybody sharing stories and vendors and everybody talking about it, that a lot of people that I think maybe were like, oh, I'm going to skip on this, or I don't know how it's going to be, came and bought tickets that night, which is why Sunday was just packed.
It was packed.
It was as packed as Saturday, which you never see that.
Dude, we were out there till like 1, still wristbanding people.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on?
Dude, there was people walking in at literally at 4:30.
It was awesome.
When it closed at 5 on Sunday, people were buying tickets at like 4:30. Like, we want in still, we want 30-minute power minute. And I'm like, let's go. I mean, it also helps too.
They were
that,
discounted, but
we didn't announce, I mean, obviously, Logan Paul showed up, that Matan showed up.
Rhino,
the comedian, showed up. I mean, there was a bunch of like celebrity names who showed up,
that was dope, man.
It was really cool. It's okay, we're being seen.
I went to use the bathroom, and right when I come out, I see Logan Paul there. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What was this on the list?
Maybe we tell the whole story of like how that went down. Cause like, are you curious? Do you even know how like that happened? Why he was there?
Well, you told me a little bit about it.
Yeah. Tetris. Kind of the meeting. But go ahead, Chris. You can jump in a little bit.
Yeah, so basically he was there working with Palmer Luckey. Do you know that name?
Mod Retro.
He owns a company now called Mod Retro, but he's the founder of Oculus VR.
Oh, okay.
Is what he is.
Yeah,
so he's there. He's a billionaire because he sold, of course, the Oculus to Mark Zuckerberg. I think that's the story anyways.
Yeah.
And so he started a new company called Mod Retro, which is kind of like a competitor. I want to almost say to your like...
It's FPGA based, just like analog.
Just like analog, yeah. So it's new Game Boy systems, and he might create... this is a big like sponsor.
Who wants the sponsor?
But anyways, he was there with his new company, and he was having Logan Paul basically promote it.
Okay.
So he came, and he was there on Friday, and like you said, we didn't announce it or anything.
We decided more against it because just, there's a number of reasons, not anything against him or, but just there was some reasons where like, it might not be smart to announce him.
Right. So we didn't
Not negative about him personally. Nothing to do with that.
No, he was a great guy. It was cool to meet him and shake his hand and everything.
Parking, security, all that could have got crazy.
There was a lot of security stuff with it. Yep. So he came and basically they filmed an episode of Impulsive, their podcast, in a side room. And then he came out and the Tetris crew didn't know he was going to come. And a little bit of it might have been scripted, maybe kind of.
And
like
we were all
WWE
backstage with him,
style.
like, hanging out, getting them doing their thing.
And then he came out and was then like special guest announced and basically competed in Tetris and lost to Blue Scooty, who's the big Tetris guy.
And Chris Tang.
But he's really
he won to Chris Tang
against Chris Tang.
But he's really decent at
He's really good at Tetris.
We were talking to his manager and the crew, which, by the way, I will say, obviously Logan Paul's a controversial name, right? There's people who love him, people who hate him, this and that. I've never been the kind of guy that like follows that kind of stuff. I just meet people in person and see how I feel. I will say him and Mike and their guys were
so nice,
extremely nice. Didn't have any problem like chatting for 20 minutes. They wanted to know more about the convention and stuff. So
yeah, they actually had such a good time there. They were talking about coming back on Saturday just to hang out.
Yep.
They didn't end up coming back. I'm sure they're busy.
They could out. It'd be so many issues with them. Right. They couldn't walk around. Logan could not walk around.
But it was cool to have him there. It was a pretty cool vibe.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Something interesting that happened at the end of the day. Did we talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's really not as big as a deal as like it felt in the moment. But long story short, we don't want to get into too many details because we don't want to like put certain people's names like, on the limelight. Let's just say there was some beef back and forth between a couple vendors, which again, we talked to, people after who run conventions and shows. This is normal, right? We thought like, oh my gosh, this thing happened and people were beefing and people are like, that happens, dude. Like that. You have 300 vendors in there. People are going to disagree on things and beef happens and stuff happens. Long story short, very long story short.
This is crazy.
A guy takes off his shirt, one of the guys beefing.
Oh, man.
And apparently we get told, Mikey and Gabo get told, hey, he has a knife. People start yelling, he has a knife. His shirt's off. He's yelling. So Gabo and a few others kind of escort him out the building. They escort him out.
Right.
At that moment, I'm with Ricky. His wife walks over and she's like, hey, Aaron, Ricky, just want to let you know this situation's going on. This guy took off his shirt, blah, blah, blah. They said he has a knife. So Ricky and I walked over there. I don't know where you.
I was behind you, but I ran into someone else, and I'm like, oh, okay, what's up?
Okay.
And then you went over there.
So I went over there, and I'm walking over there, and I'm like, okay, better check the situation, check on the vendors. You okay? I guess there was a scene that happened. Everyone okay? But apparently the guy got back in, and he was like, he needs his keys or whatever it is to get out of the place, right? Someone kicks you out. I get that. You need your keys. You can't leave if you don't have a way to get out of here. And when I'm standing there, not saying anything, I'm just kind of keeping an eye on him. I'm like, okay, let's make sure everything's, everyone's cool. And he's going to leave. And he just stands up right next to me and just yells as loud as he can and just sucker punches someone. I don't want to say their name or anything, just sucker punches him. So, and I'm like, oh my God. Luckily, this happened. Everyone was out. It was just vendors left in the hall, right? It didn't mess anything up with attendees, anything like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. So my brain immediately, it's like almost like when people say like their life flashed before their eyes with like death. Mine was like thinking as logically as I could, as fast as I could, like, there's other vendors. What if he does have a knife? What if he punches someone else? What if a little kid gets punched? What if people get, and it goes crazy. So I was like, okay, what I need to do is I just grabbed the guy immediately, took him to the ground fast, nothing aggressive, just got him on the ground. Everyone starts yelling, he has a knife. And I'm like, okay, I need to grab his arms. I start spreading his arms and I'm like, don't reach in your pockets, blah, blah. Just, being calm, not punching him or anything. And then all of a sudden I look up and there's Gabo's on the guy with me, Mikey, and you.
Yeah.
How did you get
I don't know
over
where
there?
Elliot came from. And all I was thinking, dude, I look up and I see everyone filming and it's just Pixel Game Squad on the floor holding someone down. I'm
Right
like,
behind him.
Oh, you were behind
okay,
him.
so I didn't know. I literally did not see where you came from.
I think you got him from his left arm.
Yes,
I got him from the waist and we threw him down.
So you were okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you helped me take him down.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Okay, see, I didn't know because it was like right when it happened. So I grabbed him, threw him down. I didn't know if there was any other leverage with me or whatever. But again, the most important thing in the situation for us was to make sure that, we're keeping everybody safe. Yeah. Yes, I agree. And the other vendor did get upset and try to jump back on and start fighting and stuff. I kind of hold him back. Yeah. But in reality, as a show owner, we were in good graces with Pasadena. They were very thankful for the way we reacted and how things went. The vendors were too. I actually walked around and talked to pretty much every vendor after it happened. You guys need to know any of the story. You guys okay? Yeah. But our main goal is yes, the 90s kid in me and the normal person I am, yes, everyone get on, let's beat the crap out of someone. Because that's what you do. You start beef, you don't, what is it? Stay out of the kitchen if you can't take the heat or whatever. Yeah. I wanted to. I get it. Yeah. But it's let's just keep everybody as safe as possible, keep his arms spread. And I will say, we did realize that, I think the guy had a little bit of something going on with him, a little bit mentally. As soon as I realized that when he's on the ground and he was yelling, I started rubbing his back almost. Not because I just didn't think because of the mental state that he was in, he was going to he wouldn't actually be able to calm down mentally, almost something above him at that point. So I was rubbing his back, we're not trying to hurt you. And he said something what I do. And I'm dude, you made a big mistake. You sucker punched somebody. There's a lot of people pissed off at you right now. Just stay calm. Everything's going to be cool. Obviously, I'm pissed at him and want to kill him, but we're not going to do that. We're show owners. We have to think bigger picture. I see Ricky talking to security, which we will figure things out on our end as far as, upping certain things to make sure everyone feels good. But it was a wild situation in the moment.
I don't know if you remember, but while we had him down, he still said to the other vendor, "I will kill you." Right when we were on top of him, he still said it.
I don't even remember that. Wow. He said that.
He did. I mean, he said all the stuff, but he literally said.
And people were yelling he has a knife.
Yeah.
And I started pulling his stuff out of his pockets and putting it back just to make sure. And I told him I'm pulling out your thing. Okay, it's a wallet. I'm putting it back.
Because in that moment, I was like, wow, he's pinned down and he's still making threats. That's crazy.
With 4 guys on him.
Exactly. Well, and the cops showed up really quick. I ended up coming up behind you guys after as he was being carried out.
Quick.
The cops were there immediately. And then, as far as we know, there was no knife that was ever found.
We never saw a knife.
No knife. There was nothing.
Which again, that's why it was such a hard balance for us. Do I knock his, do we knock his block off or do we hold? The best thing to do is what we did. Thankfully, we all thought very rationally in a moment where we don't want to think rationally, right?
Yeah. We almost made it through the whole weekend unscathed. Yeah. Not a single issue until that was at 5:01.
But you know what I heard? But you know what I heard in the end? Vendors, Pasadena, and everyone saying it's almost a good, some people were saying it shows that you guys care about the show, the way you guys reacted and didn't stand back and let a giant mega. I mean, imagine what would happen if you stood around, right? A mega fight could have broken out.
Right.
What if his friend goes to swing and misses and punches the girl that's working?
That would have been bad.
And that's what I mean. And then it can get out of control really quick. As much as in my life, I've always wanted to do a giant saloon fight. Every time I watch one of those movies, I'm that is a dream scenario.
Oh my gosh, there would have been smashing of people would have been grabbing Nintendos and smashing them on people's heads.
Just Ricky standing on top of the table and it just dives on. Ben's chucking people across the floor.
There's so many consoles you could have grabbed.
Lance missed the entire thing. The other show owner.
I was right there. I came up afterwards, right away.
Dude, an hour later, Lance finds me, show owner, and is where have you been? I haven't seen you. I'm I thought he was joking. I'm oh, And he's no, where have you been? And I'm do you really not know what happened? He's no, where have you been? And I'm Lance, come here, dude. I gotta tell you the story,
dude,
bro.
Me and Lance, as soon as 5 hit, we broke down the entire show by 6.
Yeah.
We were done.
And we would have helped you, but...
Oh, no, we didn't even know what was going on. We were just in our own zone. We were just boom, 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 task after task, knocking it out.
But like Chris said, we almost made it with 0 issues, but I don't look at it as I consider an issue something we... Ricky massively screwed up the vendor thing, or I messed up the skate ramp and 4 of them got brain injuries. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that's ugh.
Yeah, that one was totally out of our control.
Yeah.
And you guys did a great job of handling it. And it was
this guy.
Everybody remain calm. I really was. There's little Instagram clips, and you can see me holding down with one arm and the other hand. I'm this. I'm please stop. I actually have a picture of that. I don't know if we'll be able to.
Now going through the entire show, in its entirety, what would you guys say that you'd make adjustments next year towards, or something that you might implement better?
So right away after the show, we take generally. I felt we all needed a break right? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
I'm extremely like. Actually, Monday we had to unload, right? I felt pretty good Monday.
There was no break, yeah.
Right, so we unloaded Monday, still felt good. Tuesday still felt good. Wednesday, I got hit pretty hard. And I'm sure you guys felt it. You said you felt all right. But it is you're a running maniac. So you don't count. But there is a huge energy expulsion, I guess is the word. So we take usually about a week off right before we even started talking about the show.
Yeah.
But at the end of, so it's a week after now, generally about a week. Like on Friday, I finally reached out to Pasadena. The next thing is, finding dates for next year. It looks like we'll probably be that same weekend in June.
Yeah.
We are not going to announce that, but that most likely is going to be the same weekend at Pasadena. And to answer your question, like already talking about expanding, right? Like we had, how many vendors were not allowed to get in, Ricky?
We had close to towards the end, we had close to 100 people, 100 vendors waiting.
100 vendors on a wait list.
Like a waiting list?
Waiting list.
Wow.
It was crazy. Dude, we got it
That's
50
massive.
just in the last week. I was like, dude, everyone's like, put me on the waiting list. I'm like, you're not going to get in. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'll put you on the list, but you're not getting in. I'm like, we don't have that kind of space.
And we were that high.
We were to the brim with vendor booths to the point where there was nowhere left to put any. We were putting them out in the lobby and hodgepodge areas, but that was it. It was full. You were on the vendor floor, So we're looking at additional space. There's another exhibit hall at Pasadena, a couple of them that you can expand to. Potentially a 3-day show. Some vendors ask for a 3-day. I'm not sure your opinion on it.
Elliot wants more money.
So going like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We were technically kind of like Friday, but it wasn't really open to the public. It was like Tetris qualifying.
Can I get like a Segway for next year?
No, you know what? Those little foot things are awesome. I've seen people.
Although we did have 40 skateboards lying around, you could have just
Dude, Chris said he walked, I think, 12 miles a day.
Every day
Slacker.
for 4 days. It's like I run that. I run that in an hour. So that's the biggest things we're working on right now.
And we would never want to come off to we ran the perfect. We're perfect. We obviously are on a high from it. There were a lot of good compliments, but we always want to make sure that we're improving too.
Yeah.
Always want to be willing to improve and do. There's always going to be things we can do better, of course.
We tried to get people in as fast as we could. We had a whole team out there. I thought we did a good job, but I did hear a few people say hey, I waited in line for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but that line literally went around the building, down the building. It took me, I filmed it, and it took me 4 minutes to walk around to the end of the line.
It was a long, long line. I will say, as far as attendance goes, yes, we're not going to give away all numbers and stuff, but it was very well attended.
Community really showed love too.
Yeah,
for sure.
and we do any feedback, please. I'm open to hearing it. If somebody says they waited a long time in line, then we want to solve. So
I don't want to again. I never want to come off we're tooting our horns or anything, but I also want to give us props where I feel like we can. One of the coolest things for me is as everybody knows, Caleb is one of the most loved and hated people in the world because he's just too honest. Ben and I were talking in the car before here that he's just so honest. If you are a kid that smells funny and you're lying in your deathbed, he'll tell you smell funny. He'll be honest with you. And Caleb, at the end of the convention, we're sitting there and it's late at night, and he just looks up at me and he's like, I hate. He said something along like, I hate saying good things to you, but he's like, it's the best convention I've ever been to, man. And I was like, that's really cool to hear from him because he's so honest about the way he feels about things. He wouldn't, if he didn't like it, he would genuinely be like, dude, your convention wasn't very good. So when he said that, I was like, wow, that's really big words, That's the greatest takeaway from the weekend that I get too, is obviously when we're at the show, we are meeting so many people, and everybody I was talking to was just having such a good time and saying it was amazing. And then of course we get feedback after the show of how good of a time they have. And I've always said with the expos that they are a labor of love, right? 100%.
How much, I mean, if you counted all the hours that we put into that show and actually what we make and divide it, I don't know. Yeah. It might be a low number.
When you take the hours.
It might be $3 an hour or something like that. You know what I mean? But
worth
it's worth
every
it all
hour.
Because when I feel like bringing the community together like that, and I felt like Southern California, for the amount of the community, the amount of people that are in the community, to not really have a show like that, I felt like we were doing our part to bring that to SoCal. And I think it showed.
And all the people who came from outside of SoCal, that was great. There's a huge influx of people from outside of SoCal, which was wonderful to see. So next year, though, we're not slowing down. Bigger and better and crazier
excited.
things.
More.
I'm so excited.
And we have
for
crazy
next year.
things coming. So
I've already said that analogy. We might need a bigger boat.
yeah.
You know,
We have more-
Pasadena's only has so much room for expansion.
Yeah.
I think we'll end up utilizing everything there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for a first show, you guys absolutely did amazing. Like, just the fact that, like, the vendors showed out, the community was fantastic. I thought all the gaming competitions you guys had going went successful. Like, they were happy. And I feel like, you know, going forward, you can only grow from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a few things we did want to work. The skateboard ramp was such a huge hit.
Yeah.
So we did want to, like,
We're expanding it a little
kind
bit.
of expand that, right? Get some
Couple
other
more things to skate. Not taking over. Again, retro games will always be first and foremost vendor retro game sellers.
There's going to be X Games in there.
like the big Alpines.
2 years later, it's just nothing but skateboarding. No, it will not be like that. But yeah, that was spectacles. I love spectacles.
And had you guys ever seen the Tetris finals before? I don't think you said you'd ever seen them.
I've never seen it that crazy before.
Have you ever
intense.
seen them, like
Yeah.
at Portland? Have you ever been up there and seen it?
I think in Arizona they had one, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's
regional.
Yeah,
Those are regional.
Yeah, regional. Yeah.
Yeah, so seeing that, I think for a lot of people, that was their first time seeing it.
Yeah.
And the way it was at Portland, if you'd ever seen it at Portland, was it was in like a side room. Not nearly as big as it was at SoCal. And we
this year.
really, I think, showcased that. And the crowd on Sunday for
Unreal.
that, it
Oh,
almost
dude.
took over the whole ballroom.
We quite literally made an audible last minute where like me and Chris were talking to Vince, who runs the Tetris tournaments, CTWC, great guy, he's been on the podcast. He was like, basically like he grabbed my shoulder at one point and he's, you know, super tall guy. He's like, Riff, we're going to need more room for this tournament, just for the final part, because we did give him a ton of room. And I ran to Chris and, you know, always thinking the bigger picture. Let's remove this area. We got the free play area broken down in like 10 minutes
10?
with
That
like
was
awesome.
15 guys.
Ben,
Boom.
yeah,
It
you
was
were part of
gone,
that.
clean, organized. The owners were there like, you guys just killed us. And just filled with people.
That normally takes us like a good solid hour after the show, maybe an hour and a half to break that down. And we,
Telling you, man. Now we had
10
French, we
minutes.
had Marcus, we had Caleb,
Oh.
we had Chase breaking
Chase,
down.
the whole
I
team was
want to
doing
just
it.
say thank you to the volunteers. You,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yeah, no, they
and
were
Ben,
awesome.
you guys are so instrumental.
And all the other volunteers.
We had the best volunteers I've ever seen.
We were running on
They
bare
were
bones, too.
amazing. Yeah, and like your parents were there volunteering. My wife is there. Your wife's helping out. So it really is like a family
Everybody
affair.
was
was
family.
working.
My parents, everybody met my mom.
Curtis's mom was there. Curtis's mom.
I actually love Curtis's dad.
Curtis's
cool.
dad.
Oh, he's
yeah.
great. They're all awesome.
But the volunteers, you guys, if you're listening, you guys are so instrumental in helping out with everything with the show.
Clutch.
So
Yeah,
thank
we
you
wouldn't get
so
through
much.
that line, the outside that was wrapped
We
around.
wouldn't have got through most anything.
It's crazy.
Literally.
Yeah, great job to you, Curtis, too. Curtis was up front just like sweating. At the end of the expo,
I learned.
there was a period of time where I couldn't find Curtis, and I'm walking, and the expo's over at this point, let me make it clear, and I'm walking through the hallways like by the front door, and I just see this dead body on the floor. And Curtis is legitimately blacked out cold, just dead for an hour.
Going nonstop the whole expo.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, because I was looking at cause I'm not trying to kill anybody that's volunteering, man. But like as soon as they leave their shift, I was like, I'll cover it.
Yeah.
Like, and it just felt like because I didn't have a lot, I was like, I'll cover you. Just go have fun. Go
Yeah.
have fun.
You worked, bro.
It was great.
Yeah, and your role was, of course, volunteer coordinator is what you are. So you're working with those guys left and right. And
You
which is-
crushed it.
I was working with the fam. That was the best part too.
Yeah, you got to work with all the families. You got to work with all our
I
families
saw
up
him
there.
running around.
Yep, he was running.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I just want to say you guys did amazing. So.